We'd like to thank the Stanley M. Rumbaugh Jr. Legacy Society for sponsoring this forum.
So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this candidates forum with three of the candidates on the November 3rd ballot for seats on the Palm Beach, or the Port of Palm Beach District Board of Commissioners. My name is Jim Sackett, and I have the pleasure of being the moderator for this forum this afternoon, which is being brought to you by the Palm Beach Civic Association, sponsored by the Stanley M. Rumbaugh Jr. Legacy Society. The candidates appearing on the November 3rd ballot, all of them were invited to join us for this forum this afternoon. Three candidates accepted the Civic Association's invitation. Those candidates are from Group 1, Wayne Richards, Group 2, Katherine Waldron, and in Group 3, Roderick Clarke. Our format this afternoon is going to be very simple. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for an opening statement. That will be followed by a series of questions, starting with Group 1, Mr. Richards, and then rotating. You'll each be given 2 minutes to answer those questions, and we will finish up the forum this afternoon with closing statements of up to 2 minutes. You should, as we were told a little bit earlier, be able to see the clock when it shows up. Again, it'll be green, then from 45 seconds to 15 seconds, the background will turn yellow, and then from 15 to 0, the background will change to red. We'll begin with the opening statements. And for that, Mr. Richards, you are running in Group 1. You will go first, followed by Ms. Waldron and Mr. Clarke. Mr. Richards?
Thank you. Greetings, and thank you to the Palm Beach Civic Association and you too, Jim, for organizing and hosting this candidates forum. My name is Wayne Richards, and I'm a 25-year resident of Palm Beach County. I live here with my wife, Ulrika, and our two now teenage daughters. I'm a native New Yorker, but Palm Beach is my home. I moved to Palm Beach County after having obtained my law degree from the University of Michigan Law School. And prior to that, I worked on some exciting projects at the Ford Motor Company as a mechanical engineer, having obtained my mechanical engineering degree from Howard University in Washington, D.C. I have been able to bring my engineering and my legal experience to my duties as a 20-year seasoned port commissioner. As I have in many times in the past, I currently do have the pleasure of serving as the chairman of the Board of Commissioners for the Port of Palm Beach. While I am unopposed in this election, I decided to accept this invitation of the Civic Association because I've always felt compelled to be open and accessible to our neighbors in the town. I have on occasions either hosted or met with Palm Beach constituents that wanted to ensure that I understood their perspective and their concerns. So once again, thank you for this invitation. I look forward to the dialogue.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Ms. Waldron, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you also to the Civic Association for hosting this. This is my second one with you guys for this election cycle. And just to recap my background, I was born and raised in the DC area. Got a BA from the University of Virginia, and more recently an MBA from Palm Beach Atlantic University. So I'm originally from the DC area. I moved down here about almost 20 years ago now. I have 3 adult children. 2 are in the DC area still, and 1 is out in California now. So when I moved down here 20 years ago, like many of you, I fell in love with the place and haven't really left since. So I'm in my first term, so Wayne, Commissioner Chair Richards has a few years on me, but I'm running for re-election for a second term in Group 2, Port of Palm Beach. And I want to bring my business experience to the dais. I've had the opportunity to be an executive at 2 Fortune 50 companies, and I've also started and founded and sold small businesses. So I bring a strong business background to the dais. And as we know, the port is a major economic driver for our area. So it's important that we have that business experience up there on the dais when we're making decisions about tenants and contracts. I'm also, I've always been passionate about community service, and I want to continue to do community outreach and show that the port is such a jewel for our community, and highlight that to the area a little bit more. I think we're one of the top economic drivers for the community, and I think we're not as well. There's not enough knowledge about how many great things are coming out of the port these days. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Waldron. So, Mr. Clarke, we'll give you 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Good morning, and thank you again for the invitation. My name is Roderick Clarke. I'm running for Port of Palm Beach Group 3. I want to definitely make a difference because I'm not a politician, but what I really want to focus on is the Glades. And I'm in the Glades right now every Friday, handing out food, working with the Guardians of the Glades, Miss Tammy, the mayors here, which have endorsed me, Mayor Keat from South Bay, and the mayor of Belle Glade, and I recently met the mayor of Pahokee. And they all are supporting my cause. And they are supportive of me overseeing and taking over from Gene Enright, which is Incumbent, because I'm a man of vision and I want to bring business to the Glades. I want to bring business so I can help the Glades come out of the impoverished situation, which is in. The Glades right now is below the poverty line, unlike Palm Beach County, River Beach. And if I'm elected, by the grace of God, November 3rd, I will do all I can to bring Walmart here, which I'm a Walmart manager, a small Walmart per se. I bring local food businesses here, bring local car businesses here. And that's my goal, bring local businesses here to the city of Glades. I want to make a difference in the West. And I will make a difference with your vote. Thank you for your time, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clarke. Now let's move again to the round of questions. And Mr. Richards, you will answer this first. I'm sure that all three of you have checked the latest revenues for the port in light of the coronavirus. Cargo is down, passenger revenues have fallen off the cliff. How has the loss of revenue from the cruise ships affected the port, and what can and should be done about it in this COVID environment? Mr. Richards, 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. Over the course of, first of all, great question. And at yesterday's board meeting, I directed our chief financial officer and our executive director to do a reforecast in the month of December for our fiscal year 21 budget. Clearly, we will lose a source of revenue for at least 3 of the 12 months in the new fiscal year. So we will be able to review that and take corrective action at our December meeting. But I'm very happy to say that this board and our staff has done a phenomenal job, Jim, over the last really many years of diversifying the income streams at the port. We receive income from cargo operations, from bulk, from break bulk. The bulk would be the sugar operations. The break bulk would be the large items from the heavy bulk and passengers. We will take a hit, undoubtedly, from the loss of cruise revenue, but we anticipate we will still be cash flow positive. So we do not anticipate, probably for the first time in 9 or 10 years, of being in the red. The port has a very long streak of being profitable. We have cut back on our expenses. We have increased our revenues, but there will have to be some belt tightening as we go forward. And in the months of December and January, we'll take corrective course actions to reduce expenses. But I'll tell you, I was at the port this morning and we're currently aggressively going after 2 new major streams of revenue. That never stops. There is not a day that goes by that we're not looking to diversify and bring in new businesses, and we are in a cost-cutting mode as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Ms. Waldron, 2 minutes.
Yes. So basically, to add to what Chair Richards said, we are taking, like everybody, a hit right now because predominantly we export to the Caribbean, which, as you know, the tourist industry is pretty much collapsed in the Caribbean, and that impacts the amount of exports, the export demand. So I think when I was talking to the president of Tropical, they were saying they're down about 40% in terms of revenue, which is significant. And then, of course, you know, the cruise line has been shut down, the entire cruise industry across the country. But they are anticipating heading back out. I think I saw today sometime in mid-December. but we will suffer almost 3 months of no cruise revenue, and they're one of our biggest revenue generators. So we will take a hit, but as Chair Richard said, we're fortunate to have been in a positive cash flow situation for the past several years. So even though our revenues will decline substantially, we will be financially healthy through next year. And we are anticipating a slow increase in uptick beginning probably at end of first quarter next year for, for our tenants like Tropical to kind of start getting back closer to where they were before the pandemic. But it's not going to be an overnight thing where they go right back to where they were, 8 months ago, unfortunately, because the tourist industry will take a while to come back in a lot of these Caribbean countries. So, but as Chair Richard said, we're every day we're always focused on the bottom line, and we've done a very good job. So that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Waldron. Mr. Clarke, same question. You have 2 minutes.
That is a very, very good question. As we all know, the port right now has reserve funds that can sustain it for a few months, which is good because the port is an economic engine, obviously, and the port has tenants that obviously are still there. Of course, the port has definitely been highly affected by the virus, as in everywhere else, as in the entire world right now. But the good thing is the port is a driving engine, and it's an economic engine. My expertise as running a port, the only one that's run a port in Naha, Okinawa, Japan, for 4 years, I can bring that expertise if I'm elected of bringing more jobs, more tenants to the port, which that's what the port needs. We need to have a post-COVID plan in place because COVID is not going to be with us forever, thank God. It is reducing in some areas, and eventually, we're hoping by next year, the cruise ship business will pick back up in some aspects, obviously. Of course, will based on what the CDC is saying with the guidelines and everything like that. Having one cruise ship there right now, and of course, the commissioners have been graceful enough to let the cruise ship there. And as the cruise ship pick up, then of course they will be receiving rent from the cruise ship there. And of course, one is docked off the coast of Bahamas. So everything is affected, but we need to definitely have a vision and a plan in place so that when COVID does leave, with myself being on the board, we can definitely have more businesses in place, businesses in Pahokee, which I am right now, Belglade, and South Bay, which would definitely complement what the port is doing right now. And I am pushing to have an inlet port out here, which is my future goal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Clarke. Ms. Waldron, you'll answer this next question first. Dredging the inlet would allow bigger ships to come into the port, of course, meaning more dollars. What do you think about digging deeper channels, allowing for larger cargo ships and perhaps even bigger cruise ships? 2 minutes.
Okay, well, thanks for asking that question, because that's the reason I ran in the first place 4 years ago, because I was adamantly opposed to the deep dredging. Maintenance dredging, which keeps the channel open and the ship to allow the ships to safely come and go is vital. So that is something that I'm very much supporting. But deep dredging, there's no purpose to it. Our tenants don't need it, and it would be environmentally it would be a very negative thing on our environment. And as you know, our channel is directly practically coexists with Peanut Island, where it's one of the top tourist attractions in our county and a major snorkeling area. So the turbidity issues that would be created from deepening the channel, it's not something I'm in favor of. The tenants don't need it. And even if we were to deepen the channel significantly, our berths can't even take much bigger ships. I don't know if you've seen when the cruise ships in there at the berth, it's a nice snug fit there. So there's nothing that would persuade me to ever support deep dredging at all.
Thank you, Ms. Waldron. Mr. Clarke.
Yes, sir. That's a very, very good question, and that's been asked to myself several times. I'm with the Honorable Miss Katherine Waldron. I mean, I don't believe it is necessary to do any dredging like that because, of course, it's going to affect the coral reef. Now, if we need to do maintenance dredging of course, if there's a tropical storm or something like that that have caused debris to be there and we need to do maintenance dredging, yes, that is necessary. But but anything else, dredging as far as just because we can, I don't agree with that. We need to definitely preserve the ecosystem of the life of the coral reef, and it's not necessary to affect that in any way, and we should think of the future. So I don't agree we need to do any dredging at all, only maintenance dredging if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clarke. Mr. Richards.
With regard to dredging, great question. 1963, Jim, was a very important year. Yours truly was born in 1963. The fight for civil rights intensified greatly in 1963. Unfortunately, President JFK was killed in 1963, and the Palm Beach Inlet was last improved in 1963. Just to give you perspective, that was 57 years ago. But here's the good news for those of us, including myself, that do not want excessively large ships at the port. And Katherine Waldron is correct. We cannot accommodate the larger ships. Our wharfs and our berths cannot accommodate it. The Bahamas Paradise Cruise Line maxes out pretty much every available foot at slip number 1. So you also need upland space. What's upland? Upland are lands that are not immediately adjacent to the water. You need the warehousing. You need the area for cargo. We don't have that. We're a very small niche port. We're operating at extremely high efficiencies with what we have. So we cannot bring in a much larger ship that will still be berthed, but will also be in the intracoastal. So the residents should not worry that we're going to ever do any type of deep dredge. I do believe, though, that some improvement to the channel is critical. Whenever we have those nor'easter winds or the heavy winds, we get shoaling. Currently, we're under draft restrictions. 16 seconds left. We need to improve the inlet. We should also improve the turning basin. No deep dredge, maintenance dredging, and some marginal improvements for safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Mr. Clarke, you will go first on this next question. What are your thoughts concerning any commercialization of the port, possibly transforming the way the port looks and the way the port functions? 2 minutes.
That's a very, very great question. I'm for that because we need to definitely expand and bring in more businesses, bring in more tenants. And I was talking to Manny, the port director, and of course they want to do more as far as import and export, which is something that the port doesn't do much of. So I believe it is definitely in our best interest to get more tenants from the islands. I'm from Jamaica myself, and we can reach out to the other islands besides Bahamas, do more business with the Haitian community, with the Jamaican community. Of course, we're talking about the countries themselves, and bringing more business as far as export and import, and that will definitely drive up the revenue. That would also help do a set aside, if you will, of financial increase, financial money that can help come to fruition the inner port right here in the Glades, which will be beneficial to everyone, which will help bring more jobs to the Glades, which will be helping the sister, which is the Port of Palm Beach. Similar to what has happened in Laredo, what has happened in other ports that I've visited and I've seen how they operated. So that's, for example, Miami. So yes, it's definitely important to bring more business, bring more infrastructure to help the local cities. And by doing that, we're helping ourselves, helping our fellow man, and each other. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Clarke. Mr. Richards.
Thank you. The question is whether I would support commercialization of the port. Absolutely not. The port needs to be run by a body of elected officials that are directly accountable and directly answerable to the citizens in the Port of Palm Beach District. We have to operate under a delicate balance. the goals and the needs of being an economic engine, bringing in new business, bringing in new jobs for the residents, while on the other hand, we have to operate in our neighborhoods. We are fully developed. The town of Palm Beach Shores, Riviera Beach, and West Palm Beach all adjoin the port. We have a responsibility and a fiduciary responsibility to act in a responsible and reasonable manner. So although we are looking to be profitable, because we do not want to be a taxing authority that further burdens the residents, we have to maintain our revenues, but be answerable and accountable. And how do you do that? By having elected officials. We must remain a public entity. I'm going to go to part 2 of the question about beautification of the port. I do support that, quite frankly. When I'm on a boat and I'm in the inlets or in the turning basin, I don't particularly like seeing the industrial aspect of the port that has been a bone of contention for many residents of the town. I do support covering that. I support improving the visual and aesthetic appeal. So we should not become commercialized. We need to maintain the port structure. And yes, we do have a duty and a responsibility to beautify the port so that it is not an industrial headache, an eyesore to the neighbors.
Mr. Richards, Ms. Waldron.
Yes, let me just add to what Wayne just said. I believe that we do need to have a port that's accountable to the community. So I do not support commercialization. I'm assuming you're talking about privatization. I do, however, think that, and also I would just add, to a certain extent, if it's not broken, don't fix it. We are one of the most efficient ports in the country. I think there have been years when we have been the most efficient port in the country. We're only 162 acres, so we have to make do with what we have. And fortunately, we have tenants that are just very good at turning container boxes around and getting them back out. We're a predominantly, as you know, export port. So we've done very well financially. But in terms of the external elements and the way it looks, I agree with Wayne Richards on that as well. I think there's a lot that we could do with that. And I've actually spoken with the mayor of Riviera Beach and some of the council people there about that very issue to see how we can to better make it, beautify it from both the waterway, the way it looks from the water, and from the way it looks from the roads, because I think there's a lot of things that could be improved. I also think that there's some tenants that could probably work to make their area a little bit more visibly appealing. And, for instance, I'm not a big fan of the way Stone Rock piles their recyclable metal up there right next to the water. I never have been. I also don't think, no matter how much they say it, I still don't think it's safe. I think it's a safety issue, having that stuff there. So those are some of my issues that I would like to see improved in terms of beautifying the port. So.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Waldron, and thank all of you for your answers to those questions. And that concludes this round, kind of brief, but we're going to move on to closing statements right now of up to 2 minutes each. And we're going to do them in reverse order from the openings, meaning Mr. Clarke, you're going to go first with the closing statements of up to 2 minutes. Mr. Clarke?
Once again, thank you for your time. I'm really happy to be on this panel. It is a good, viable source, especially in COVID time, to bring qualified candidates like my colleagues here to the bear so that we can share our like-mindedness and we can share our opinions and our expertise. I'm a 20-year Marine veteran, like I've said, family man, been married for quite a long time. 5 kids, 3 in college, and 2 teenagers. And what I'm trying to do as a port commissioner, if I'm elected, is to improve, not only improve the economic engine of the port, but also improve the West. I have a passion and a soul for the West. Being a country boy myself from Jamaica, and I've been working with the community for about 2 months now, and I've seen for myself that my esteemed opponent has not done much in the West. And I want to change that if I'm elected by bringing an inlet port to the West, bringing more jobs for example, Walmart or any other infrastructure, to definitely help the people of the West. And that is my goal. Vote for Roderick Clarke for Port of Palm Beach. Sincere, a local pastor, a visionary, a man that worked on ports for 4 years, been in the Marine Corps for 20 years, proven veteran that can bring changes to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clarke. Ms. Waldron.
Yes, thanks again for hosting this and allowing us to speak. Just to summarize my platform, I'm running for a second term. One, because I want to continue to protect the environment, which I think is very precious to all of us. Two, as we've said, the port's an economic driver. I think there's things that we can do to expand on that. And going to what Roderick was saying, I think an inland port, distribution center, logistics center, is a great way to kind of help our community out there, as well as help the ports in Southeast Florida. So I've always been in favor of that, and my business background allows me to help bring that business acumen to the dais. And the third piece of my platform is the community outreach piece, utilizing the port to help our community. For example, when I co-founded Palm Beach County Cares to help the hurricane victims, Hurricane Maria and Hurricane Dorian, the port really stepped up to allow us to use the warehouse space, and they assisted us with the logistics of getting supplies over to those victims. And more recently, the port has agreed to allow Hospitality Helping Hands to every Saturday do the food distribution drive-through there. So they've been doing it probably almost 4 months now. So Saturday afternoons, families that have been hurt economically by the pandemic are able to come and get food for their families. So I want to continue to do those things. I've been endorsed by the North Chamber, Palm Beach Chamber, firefighters, Ruthless, the unions, most of the elected officials in the 17 municipalities that make up the district, the Port District. And I'm looking forward to serving a second term in the group too. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Waldron. And Mr. Richards.
Once again, thank you for this forum. I'll be quite brief. I look forward to continuing to serve the residents of the Port District, and I look forward to continuing the open dialogue with the residents of the town of Palm Beach. Please continue to monitor our posted agendas and reach out and let me and the rest of our board know your concerns. And once again, I'm always accessible and available. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of the Palm Beach Civic Association and the sponsor of this candidates forum, the Stanley M. Rumbo Jr. Legacy Society, I'd like to express our sincere thanks to all of you for taking part in this forum as candidates for seats on the Port of Palm Beach District Board of Commissioners. Wayne Richards from Group 1, Kathleen Waldron from Group 2, and Roderick Clarke from Group 3. Thank you all very much again. And thank you for watching. And remember, the election is November 3rd. I'm Jim Sackett. Thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
We are grateful to today's sponsor, the Stanley M. Rumbo Jr. Legacy Society, and to the individuals who have made gifts and bequests to provide for educational programs in perpetuity.